Life after Microsoft, cutting the cord. CrowdStrike, what happened? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about CrowdStrike and the idea of life after Microsoft. I did a series a while back, years back, called Life After Adobe, Cutting the Cord. And I took you along this journey with me, basically moving from Adobe to alternatives and no longer paying Adobe their continuous, in perpetuity cost for using or renting or leasing their software. So we're not going to actually change out or replace Microsoft as of today, but this is going to be, I believe, the beginning of a series. Some people have been asking me about alternatives to using Microsoft, and after this CrowdStrike thing happened, they're like, wow, maybe we should do something about this. Maybe we should check into Linux. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a series on moving from the Microsoft platform over to Linux to see if it's something that you're interested in and if the applications that you require to do your daily work actually function in Linux. Some things don't, but a lot of things these days do. Even games. If you're a gamer, you can actually game through Steam using Linux. But this video is going to be about CrowdStrike and what happened and how we saw this global outage due to CrowdStrike. So we're going to get into it a little bit. I was reading a few articles, actually many articles about this. Everyone was covering it because everyone was out. There was banks that were out. They weren't connected. You saw outages in airports, and I could attest to that one because right now I am not at the studio. As you can see, this setup is a little bit different. I'm actually out of Florida, so we ended up having to take a plane and it ended up being disastrous. I'll tell you about that before the end of this video. Anyways, I think this article came from The Futurist, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think it did. There was a bunch of them. I want to go through some of it just so you get an idea of what's going on, and then I want to give you my commentary over it, and then of course I want to hear from you. What do you think about this? Is this something that kind of aggravates you, angers you? Is this something that will allow you or to give you that thought or the motivation to move away from Microsoft? I've been using Microsoft for many, many years, all the way back from, I think it was Windows 3.1. And obviously now, what are we on, 11? And the size difference is just amazing. I will tell you about that also. Before we get into this article, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks, check them out. They are free. Go to JCristina.com/books. Also, if you wanted to say thank you for all of my hard work on this channel, right down here is a little thank you button. You can click on that, give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, that's perfectly fine. The video is still free. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. Also, if you want more Starlink content, because a lot of people are here for Starlink, check out my Starlink playlist. I'll put it over here. If you want the Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord playlist, I'll try to stick it here. I don't know if I could put 2, but if not, down below in the comment area, in the pinned comment, you will see the link to those, both of those series. You can check that out, not now, but after you watch this video. Also, if you enjoyed this content, even at least throw it a thumbs up. That'd be very helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not, and if you are, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Click this little button over here, this notification button, so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. Anyways, now that all the housekeeping is done, let's jump right into this article. This is kind of funny. This is really funny. The folks over there at Microsoft said, you know, if you turn your or reboot your Windows 15 times, it should clear up the problem. I'm not kidding. Anyways, the article starts out by saying on, off, and on, off again, kind of referencing what Microsoft was saying. It says, as the world still reels from the massive IT outage triggered by a faulty security software update by CrowdStrike that forced Microsoft machines to crash, Microsoft is trying to pick up the pieces. That is the blue screen of death crash that we always see, right? Way back in the day, Windows 95, Windows 98, something got a little haywire. What? Boom, blue screen of death. You can't do nothing. You have to reboot the machine. machine, and hopefully it doesn't keep happening over and over again. Then you have to reinstall. Anyways, it continues. Worse yet, the bug needs to be addressed by in-person IT professionals. In other words, you can't do it virtually, because a lot of people now are using virtual servers, VMs, virtual machines, and they're not really in the colos, in those, let's say, network operations centers. So they do it remotely. Well, with this bug, you can't. You actually have to go there and fix it. That's why there's been a lot of outages. Once again, you can't fix it remotely. On top of all the chaos that the outage has already caused, those professionals will need to be patient as they quite literally turn it off and then back on, talking about the OS, and then off and on and off and on over and over and over, the article states. Quote, "We have received feedback from customers that several reboots, as many as 15, have been reported may be required. But overall feedback is that reboots are an effective troubleshooting step at this stage," Microsoft wrote in their update. Really, 15 times, guys, 15 times. And then it fixes it. Depending on how ancient your Windows machine is, this is the question, that could take literally an eternity. You know how long it takes to reboot Windows, right? Because it's so bloated, it's just massive. Now imagine doing that 15 times. How many minutes, how many hours will it take to reboot 15 times over and over and over some of these machines? Unbelievable. The bug has wreaked havoc on numerous industries, including hospitals, banks, and airports. Airlines have canceled thousands of flights worldwide, with passengers across the world getting stranded. We were kind of stranded. We were delayed many hours. There were people that were literally sleeping on the floor in Atlanta as we came into Georgia, sleeping on the floor, laying all over the place because all of their flights were canceled. And if you go onto the board to see all of the, let's say, on time or delayed, the number of red markers that said canceled, 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 canceled was crazy. Absolutely crazy. And this is all due to this problem. And this was days after they supposedly fixed it, with their 15 reboots or whatever the hell they want to do with this Microsoft piece of junk. Anyways, the article continues. An entire TV network in Australia wasn't able to broadcast due to the outage. Meanwhile, Microsoft is advising experts to delete a specific file to stop Windows machines from experiencing the blue screen of death, a critical error screen that indicates that the entire system has crashed. Quote, "We can confirm the affected update has been pulled by CrowdStrike," Microsoft wrote in their update. Customers that continue to experience issues should reach out to CrowdStrike for additional assistance. While it sounds like a simple fix, rebooting may prove difficult for some cloud-based servers. And that's what I was saying before. If you're running a VM, a virtual machine, you're not actually having access to the colo or the NOC, the Network Operations Center, or where that server is housed. Now what? You need to get there one way or another, because that's the only real way to fix this. You have to be on site. So they're probably sending people all over the planet right now trying to get this thing fixed. And that's why there's still outages, even though that this has been going on for days now. Unbelievable, in my personal opinion. I'll get into that in just a second. The article finalizes with, "Of course, it's deeply ironic that a cybersecurity software designed to stop hackers caused such a cascading global disaster, thanks to its deep integration into Windows computers. Falcon has plenty of tools in its disposal to ward off attacks, but those same privileges also mean that when something goes wrong, it can take the entire system down with it as a worst case scenario." And that's exactly what happened here. Meanwhile, CrowdStrike shares, stock shares, slide more than 15% in early trading on Friday. It's the worst ever since 2022. So, basically, this is a piece of software, this CrowdStrike nonsense, which a lot of companies use a ton. And they use it for, let's say, as an anti-hacking or a means of security, right? But since you have a security software that all of these systems are using, right? It reminds me of the Sandra Bullock movie. What was it? The Net. And the security software that was on every system throughout the globe, basically, was called Gatekeeper. There was a hack or an exploit that came out. It's called Mozart's Ghost. At that point, using this Mozart Ghost hack, or backdoor is what it really was, if you will, it would allow you to get into the Gatekeeper and have full functionality of it and do whatever you want. That means not only regular corporate machines, but that's like CIA, FBI, police, the whole 9 yards. And now you have complete control over it. And this is always the fear when it comes to doing this and putting all of your eggs into one basket. Microsoft has always been known for this. There's a lot of companies that use Microsoft as an OS, but then the underlying or the underpinnings of the security going through this company is basically like the Gatekeeper. This CrowdStrike is the same thing. It is Gatekeeper on crack. All of these systems, once again, like they said, banks and airlines, there's airport trains, planes, everybody is using this software. And at that point, when the software gets exploited, or in this case, it wasn't an exploit, it was actually a bug. When that bug gets propagated out throughout the entire globe that all of these Windows machines are using, you end up with catastrophic failure. So once again, putting all of your security eggs into one basket is kind of stupid. Now, what's interesting here is that if you were running, or if the company was running a Mac computer, is running OS X, or if that computer was running Linux, guess what? It wouldn't happen, because they're not using this software. And even if they were, the exploit does not get into the picture, into the mix the same way. That is the beauty, for example, as Linux. Now, some people don't understand this, but Mac OS X is actually Unix. It's Linux. It's like a derivative thereof. Back from BSDI, it's like a combination of different Linux distros or distributions, kind of all put together, woven into one nice package, and then a beautiful GUI. Some people call it beautiful, very simplistic GUI, or graphical user interfaces just put on top of it. So people don't know that when they're using their Apple computer, they're actually using a Unix computer, right? A Linux computer. But anyways, that's no here nor there. The bottom line is they are not infected by this type of thing. Okay, the Linux operating system is a lot more secure, and that's why many banks used to use Unix or Linux, it's usually Unix, back in the day for doing their work. And the reason being is they just didn't have the security issues. They are extremely tight. Now, can you exploit a Linux machine? Yes, you can. But with Windows, it's basically an open book. Not really, but it is pretty bad, really bad. Now, I was telling you about the Windows that I started using way back in the day. Actually, my first computers were like a Sinclair and a Ace 1000 and an Apple II Plus and all this type of thing, right? But once we ended up getting a PC, the Windows operating system came on floppy disks, 1.4 meg floppy disks, about 6 or 8 of them. So the entire operating system of Windows was right around 5 megs. Not gigs, 5 megabytes. That was it. That was Windows, right? And then as time went on, we went to Windows 95, Windows 98. Windows 98, for example, the size of Windows 98 is 120 to about 150 megabytes. Not gigabytes. 120 to 150 megabytes. That in comparison to like Windows 11. Windows 11 is about 25 to 28 gigabytes. So you're looking at something that's about 130 to 200 times larger. It is bloatware. It is a big fat mess. The problem with Windows since day one is that it is, if you think about Windows as just a whole bunch of code, all right, and you have, let's say, 10,000 people writing different pieces of code, and then you have, out of that 10,000 people, you have 100 people that are taking all of these modules, let's say, and then tying them all together with shoestrings and stitching and glue, and hoping that one guy out of these 10,000 guys or gals doesn't break the other guys or gals' code. And this would happen all the time. So one module would break the next, and then the next would break the next, so on and so forth. And you had these 100 people that would have to sit there and try to figure out what broke what, and then remove that and have that person rewrite code to not break the other guy's code. It's a complete hodgepodge mess. It's basically, it is a bird's nest, right? That is Windows. Whereas if you looked at Unix, right, it's more top down. Yes, there's modules, but they all go into a kernel. That kernel is just written perfectly, let's just say, very slick, and that's why it actually runs faster too. Now, some gamers out there don't realize this, but you don't need to use a Windows machine to play your games. You can actually play on a Linux machine. And using Steam, for example, you can play many of the games that you play on Windows. And what's interesting is many of them actually run better on Linux than they do on Windows. Why is that? Well, it's basically because it is just a slicker operating system. Once again, top down, not a nested mess, right? It is very clean and quick. So the bottom line here is when we put all of our eggs into one basket, or all of our security eggs into one basket, almost like the movie The Net, where you have that Gatekeeper program and then you end up with Mozart's Ghost, which is that hack or that exploit to get in. Well, not only is one system vulnerable, but all systems are vulnerable. And once again, this is the problem. This wasn't a hack. This was just simply a bug in the code. Imagine if it was a hack. And now the hackers can exploit all of these systems globally, from banks, once again, trains, planes, automobiles, the airports, everything. Full exploit. Could you just imagine what kind of chaos would this have caused? Because now all of these people would have been able to get into all of these systems, just like, once again, in that movie The Net. So it's something to think about. And if you're looking for more privacy with the things that you do, and or you just want to simply try another operating system and not continuously use the Windows operating system just because you're comfortable with it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with, once again, this series, and I'm going to show you how to install Linux onto a little pen drive. And then what you'll be able to do is take that pen drive, stick it into your computer, boot into Linux, and then use Linux for a day, for an hour, for a week, for however long you want on that drive. If you get comfortable with it and you actually enjoy it, you like it, then you can actually install it onto your computer. So this is a means for you to actually give it a test run. And remember, Linux is free. You're not going to be paying for it like you would on a Windows machine. You have to pay for Windows, right? Windows 10, Windows 11, or whatever you're going to get. You're going to have to pay for it. And my understanding is in the not so distant future, we're going to see Bill Gates, Billy the Kid as I call him, start to do kind of like the rest of the folks out there are doing, where you end up having to rent software, just like with Adobe. You're going to have to pay just to use Windows every single month. I don't think that that's too far in the future when it happens, but we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, you'll be ready, because now you'll be able to use a different operating system. Once again, you can always go with Apple's operating system. It is Linux anyways, or you can go with one of the Linux distros that I show you how to install. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, throw the video a thumbs up. That'll be very helpful. Down below in the comments, I want to hear from you. What do you think about all this? Is this something that you're interested in? Are you not? Is it kind of scary that you can see one company have the ability to take down an entire network of computers worldwide? Once again, putting all of your security eggs in one basket. Not too smart, is it? Anyways, guys, thank you very much for being here. Finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you, and my merch and my tools and all of my teas and everything else. I also have that book, How to Create a Digital Fort Knox, backing up your digital life. I teach you how to build a digital Fort Knox so you can secure all of your files locally and not in the cloud someplace where one day it can rain and you no longer have those files. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Throw the video a thumbs up. That would be awesome. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not. If you are, thank you so much. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.